Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time around, it is my review of the 2019 based on a true story drama, Richard Jewell. Based on the true story of the 1996 Atlanta Games bombing. Now, before I get around to sharing more of my thoughts on this film, I want to give a very special shout out to Brock for requesting this review. If there's another film, TV show, or topic that you would like to see me discuss in the future, feel free to donate to my PayPal. The link will be in the video description down below. Now, Richard Jewell, in my opinion, it's an alright film. It's competently made. It's got a decent enough script. The performances are pretty good. But it's not one of those films that really stands out among the sea of based on a true story docudramas. This is a film where it's adequate, it's there, but there really isn't a lot to really elevate it above other films in this genre. I think in large part it has to do with the very matter of a fact, very plain approach directorially from Clint Eastwood and from other people with the production in terms of the editing or even the way that the film is structured with the screenplay. This would have benefited from a more unorthodox take on things, whether it's from a different perspective of someone involved with the proceedings, or if it just was a little more ambitious when it comes to how things ultimately played out. Because everything just felt very one note, very here we go, here are the facts, here's what happened, here's the bombing, here's the whole bit where Richard Jewell is now the number one suspect, here's the fallout from that, and that's it. It's not really a film that really sticks with you. I think in large part it's due to its very simplistic approach, and I think for some people that works, that makes it more realistic, that makes it something that sinks in a little deeper for them. But for me, it's what makes the film not sink in as deep as it could. Like something along the lines of I, Tonya, which I thought was an incredible film that also had Paul Walter Hauser in it. So the film was directed by Clint Eastwood, and the direction is fine. I mean, especially for a man his age. I mean, Clint was really up there in age by the time he did this film. This is one of the last films that he directed, if you look at his filmography. And he's still as solid as ever. He's still a very solid filmmaker, very sturdy in his handling of the shots and of the different sequences, but not very ambitious and not very risky. But then again, he's kind of not that kind of filmmaker. He really hasn't been a filmmaker who does take a lot of risks when it comes to the shot selection, or what kind of angles he's using, or what kind of techniques that he's displaying on the screen. So he's definitely a more old-fashioned, straightforward director. And if you look at the film in that lens, it's serviceable. It's just one of those things where the direction isn't going to wow you. It's not going to really make you that impressed. You're not going to see the direction in this film and be like, oh man, the direction of Richard Jewell, like, that is some of the best that I've seen in a film of this type. No, that's not really the case. But it's not a problem either. So Clint did a decent enough job, but it just wasn't anything that I personally found to be must watch, like some of the critics who really were into this film. The script by Billy Ray is based on a few different sources. It's based on American Nightmare, The Ballad of Richard Jewell by Marie Brenner, and The Suspect, An Olympic Bombing, The FBI, The Media, and Richard Jewell, The Man Caught in the Middle by Kent Alexander and Kevin Salwin. So it took those two publications that were really, in a lot of ways, the Bible, the go-to source for the Richard Jewell case, and it took those and incorporated them into the screenplay. And it's a film where, to me personally, the story is more interesting when it comes to the aftermath of the Atlanta bombing. The bombing itself, it's tragic, it's shocking, at least for the time, but I think they focused on it a bit too much early on in the film, because I really feel the more intriguing aspects of this plot, the more captivating things are dealing with the aftermath, showcasing Richard and his newfound celebrity after stopping the bomb, or saving all these lives, and then him becoming the number one suspect by the FBI for being the one that set it all up, and showcasing how he's being railroaded, and showcasing his fight for innocence, and showcasing the damage that's done with relationships between other people that he knows, or how the reach of the media can really hurt a whole ton of people, not just including Richard. It hurts his family, specifically his mother. And I felt the stuff that involved his mother, that was definitely some of the more emotionally compelling segments of the story. I liked the relationship that Richard also started to build with his lawyer, and how his lawyer, in a lot of ways, was just was the guy to not only keep him fighting, but also to get him to just stop being such a pushover. And I think that was handled well. I don't think the opposing side was handled as well, in terms of the investigators, the FBI agents. The FBI in particular just came across as cartoonishly bad and evil. Like, they're just there to screw this guy over whenever they possibly can, and they view him as nothing but a loser and so on. It was almost like Jon Hamm's character of the FBI agent, uh, Tom Shaw, based on FBI agent Don Johnson. It's almost like that character was written like a jock in an 80s high school drama. He's just a major douchebag, and there really wasn't any other layers to that character. I didn't feel there were a lot of layers to Olivia Wilde's character either, although they tried to have some in there, with showing her having a bit of a conscience at some point, as Kathy Scruggs. I know the script took a lot of creative liberties when it comes to certain things. For instance, what Kathy did to get certain information. There is no proof that she solicited sex or anything of that sort in order to get information or to get the scoop on anything. That was completely a fabrication by the screenwriter, and honestly a pretty lame thing to do. I'm fine with, taking some creative liberties with a film like this in order to make it more engaging, but not in that capacity, because it wasn't anything that really made it more engaging. It was just a cheap thing. In a lot of ways, it was cheap heat, and it was just not needed in this particular capacity. And it's just a film that just goes kind of through the motions in terms of the story. It lets you know all the big players, and it does a good job making you sympathize with Richard and his family, and you want him to find a way to clear his name. And it also does a good job making you hate the media, but I think it could have been a little bit more open-minded, and a little bit less biased when it comes to its interpretation of the media as well. It's very surface level when it comes to dissecting all these different aspects of this case. And as a result, it's just a film that just kind of is there. Like it keeps your interest somewhat. It's a well-made film from a technical standpoint, but nothing particularly amazing or really astonishing, whether it's the visuals or the storytelling. The performances are all pretty good too. Paul Walter Hauser, I would say it's definitely one of his better performances. This is his opportunity to be the star of the show, and I think he really handled that quite well. Did a good job showcasing all the different aspects of Richard's personality and who he is. Uh, it was a role that definitely showcased Richard in not always the best light, and I think that's a very challenging role for an actor to pull off, and I feel that Paul nailed it, because this is not a very flattering character to play. It's a character who's not only not very flattering in appearance, but he's also a character that has a lot of traits that aren't flattering at all. He is in some ways a bit of a narcissist, but in other ways he's not confident at all in himself or his abilities or his overall self-esteem. He's a very sad sack kind of guy, a guy who needs to nut up and stand up for himself. And there's a lot of times in the film where he just gets shit on and he takes it, and that's exactly what this character was intended to be. That's exactly what the writers and the filmmakers wanted from this character, and that's really who Richard in a lot of ways was. So I feel Paul definitely did bring this real life individual to the screen in a way that felt relatively authentic. Sam Rockwell, I also really liked his performance as G. Watson Bryant Jr. Had a certain charisma, a certain attitude about him that really did stand out in a good way. He was very forceful, but also very understanding, and didn't come across as a total jerk off. And that's a kind of a hard line to follow sometimes for an actor, to portray a character who is hard on someone, but in a way that still seems like it's tough love, and it's not them just being an asshole. Kathy Bates, just an amazing actress, and this is no exception when it comes to the typical strong performance you would see from her. I really did feel immensely for her. She was just caught up in the crossfire with this whole thing, and the scene where Kathy Bates as Bobby goes up to the podium and speaks to the media and talks about the damage that has been done to her and to her son. It's heartbreaking, and it's as effective as it is because of Kathy Bates and her talent. Jon Hamm, he played the role he was asked to play and did that very well, but I still feel that character wasn't written as strongly as it could have been. So it honestly, in some ways, wasted his talents, because in a lot of ways, Jon Hamm is presented as a one-note, very one-minded individual, and I think there was more to that character or to that person than what was shown on the screen. I also feel the same way about Olivia Wilde and her performance as Kathy Scruggs. It's another decent, solid role. She handles it well, deals with the layers that she was given, but there's not a lot. It's like her performance is only a little piece of an onion, not the whole onion. Like not all of the layers of the onion. Some of the layers are missing, and as a result, it just feels incomplete. You also have Nina Arianda, who plays Nadia Light. You have Ian Gomez, who plays another FBI agent. But the main cast members are the ones that I mentioned a little bit ago when it comes to Paul Walter Hauser, Sam Rockwell, Kathy Bates, Jon Hamm, and Olivia Wilde. The film features some cinematography by Yves Bellinger, as well as editing by Joel Cox and a score by Arturo Sandoval. All three of these things are not terrible, but they're not terrific either. They're not anything that's going to make you really point them out as something that is particularly that impressive when it comes to the technical aspects. But they are consistently solid, at least. They're not anything that's a net negative or detrimental to the film. And it went by at a all right pace. I'm not going to say it went by at a great pace because there were some moments where it meandered a little bit, or I wasn't really as engaged with the story, and it just kind of started to slow down a little bit too much for my tastes. It's one of those films where it tells the story and it tells it well enough, but it's either the story itself that's not really that compelling consistently, or the way that the story was told by the screenwriters. So it's just one of those films where it's worth a watch for some of the performances, to get a paint by numbers basic retelling of the story of the Atlanta bombings, and the case of Richard Jewell and his fight for innocence. But other than that, it's not really a lot to write home about. It's not really something that you're going to come back to over and over again, like other docudramas that were based on true stories. At least not for me personally. But if it is something that really interests you, go ahead and check it out. Who knows? You might like it a lot more than I do. But at the end of the day, it was all right. And I've definitely seen worse. But I've also seen a lot better when it comes to this genre. But anyway, thank you for watching my review of Richard Jewell. And as always, I'll see you later. See ya.